this is going to be a little bit unconventional. I never spoken about this before. This is your first time I'm putting my thought out. Okay, trying to get this out of my chest. So yes, I did go to medical school first. I practiced ear, nose and throat surgery for about 7 years. The way it happened, I went to medical school is just by chance. And in India, this happens a lot, especially due to parental pressure, grandparental pressure and stuff. So happens that I had gone to, my dad was in the army, so I had gone to visit my parents who were on vacation there. So happens that is all in the Himalayas, and there was no communication after that. I mean, it takes 7 to 15 days for a letter to go like that. So I applied for, after 12th, I applied to medicine and engineering mainly because of pressure from everybody. I mean, my parents and uncles and aunts and everybody. So I waited and waited and waited, and nothing happened. I didn't get any call, nothing. And then my dad told, it's already 3.5 months. No one gets this long a vacation. You better go and check what's going on. So I came back, and all my classmates, they were all doing engineering and medicine, and like I said, like, how did you get in? And they said this happened like a month and a half ago, so you missed out. And then I went tried to get into some school. It didn't matter which one, but so happens the university last date had been over, July 27th. So and then I didn't know, I checked out all the colleges. They told me, why don't you come next year, we'll definitely take you and all that. So 1 year of missing the whole school, that no education, this was really bad. So and then so happens that about middle of September, I saw my uncle, actually the same guy who sent me a wrong application. He saw that a small clip on the newspaper saying that in some medical college they had gone to court because of some irregular selection, and the judge had said that no, we have to redo the whole selection process again, and they had called for applications to that medical school. And my uncle said, your scores are good, only you are late, but really your scores are good, why don't you apply? And I never wanted to be a doctor, really. I always was thinking I'll be a physicist. My role model was mainly Leonardo da Vinci, so I wanted to be like him, like really good in a lot of things, mostly physics oriented or engineering oriented. So and then I thought, like, I ending up as a doctor, it will be hard. And then my auntie, she said, like, okay, you love to travel, I'm going to give you some money, you go and travel, you've never been to Belgaum, so why don't you go there? So I went there, and luckily or unluckily I got selected. And when I came back and told them that I got selected for medical school, it was by general merit because my biology scores were very high. So whatever, the reason was my biology teacher was too good. I mean, everyone in my class got very high in biology, so we were never studying, but still we got high scores. So anyway, the deal was I told my grandfather, and my grandfather, who was my favorite, and I was his favorite too, he went around telling all our neighbors, telling, oh, Sudhi is going to be a doctor, Sudhi is going to be and I was looking at him, and I thought, no, I don't think I can tell no to this. And I said, okay, let me try this. 1 year I will do this, and next year I'll come back and convince him that no, actually I really want to do engineering. And then next year around May, he was sick. And then I thought, oh, I don't want to do anything with him now, so I continued. And over time, then I got into the rat race of getting ahead and all that. And then I completed my medical school, then did my ear, nose and throat surgery, everything, and was practicing 7 years. And I was working for a pediatric hospital in Bombay, and about to buy all the instruments to create my own hospital in Karnataka. And at that time I was thinking, man, I really wanted to be an engineer, and here I end up as a doctor. And once you start a practice, you're gone. Basically your whole life passes, and then at the end of life you will realize you really never wanted to, you never did what you really wanted to. So that was how it was. And then it so happened, it was coincidental, in a month's time I was reading the newspaper after doing a surgery, and I saw this huge spread out, and that never happens. In IIT Bombay invites doctors and engineers to do a cross-disciplinary course in biomedical engineering. And I thought, is this real? Or because I had tried everywhere to ask, I asked a lot of engineering schools. They said, no way, you have to do your undergrad first. and this one was asking me to get to apply to a master's course, which was cool. I don't have to redo the undergrad. So I thought, let me try, and that as soon as I changed, I went straight by the metro and I went to the IIT. I asked them how this would be. They had this test. That school is very hard to get into, IIT Bombay, and they had this test where doctors would be asked a lot of questions on and how to solve partial differential equations and stuff, and engineers will be asked a lot of questions on anatomy and physiology. So that was the test, and so I got through. I practiced for a bit and then I got through, and then that was the best part of my life. And I did my master's and PhD. I specialized doing engineering of artificial internal organs like heart, liver, kidney and all that stuff. And so that was a really cool, because of all that I had missed, I took courses in almost every different department. I took a course in aerospace, mechanical engineering, electrical, signal processing, chemical engineering. So I did a really large scale engineering in those 6 years. And during this time, the very first year of my PhD, there was not much to do. It was before the internet, and of course before the AI definitely, and much before the internet. So we were writing these letters to all these places where they did scientific work in artificial organs, which I was doing about, and we had to get back those scientific papers, and then we had to go through that and then conceptualize an idea and all that. So that was a year and a half of literature search. And during this time, one of the days I was chatting with one of my friends. We were having this late night chai, we call it, but basically it was all late night tea and going on and on, talking, and then at some point I said he was from a village in Bengal, and at some point we all do this, right? So I said, hey, you won't understand, you are from a village, something like that. And Dipankar got no, I may be from village, but I know more than most of you guys. And then we started thinking, how many of the students undergrad, how many of them actually come from metros versus villages? Turns out that this guy, Dipankar, was the only guy in the entire dorm who actually was from a village. Most of the others were from some metro city, and they had all prepped up a lot to get into IIT, passing the JEE exam. So we thought about it. Why is it that India is 80% villages, and none of them are here except you, Dipankar? So there must be something. And that means the villagers are not really smart. That's what it means, according to, I mean, if you look at statistics. So then we thought we should do something about it. And then we thought maybe we should train them basically in how to prepare for JEE, Joint Entrance Exam, and go from there. And so we thought we should do that. We went around nearby villages, and the whole journey used to take us 3.5 hours to go and come back. Then we thought hey man, this is not going to be sustainable. Why don't we do something similar idea but something else? The campus was huge, so there were a lot of folks who were underprivileged within the campus. They were all employed by the campus, but like a sweeper's daughter or sentry's son or something like that, pharmacist's daughter, all these. I thought maybe we should catch hold of these guys. They are effectively as bad, and we will try to prep them up for JEE, Joint Entrance Exam. So we did that, and we talked to the parents, and they were very happy. And then we talked to the electrical engineering professor. He said, oh yeah, the whole electrical engineering department in the evenings you can take it, no problem. We will give you all the equipment, everything if you want. And then we started, and then we took volunteers. We had some remarkable teachers among the undergrads, and they had all passed JEE, so they really knew how to get through the exam. So we did that, and over time, slowly they all started coming to the US. These instructors, they all got some scholarship, they came to the US. So I was the only doctor there, right? So supposedly our math skills are not as good because we have missed out a lot of math curriculum. Even though they try to train us, we are not going to be as good as the undergrad. So Dipankar said, hey doc, what are you going to do? Teach? You can't teach anything, you don't know math. And I said, no, that's true, but you engineers don't have any commitment, so most likely you guys will disappear after some time, and then I will decide what I will do with these students. And so that's what happened. And one by one they started coming to the US, and then I was left with these 35 students, very motivated, and they were interested to come in, at least for a change, and I didn't know what to teach them because nothing else. And then I thought, okay, well, let me try to teach them some medical stuff, and let's see how this goes. And so I started motivating them. Generally for about 2.5 months I just kept motivating them, general stuff, nothing, no syllabus, no curriculum, nothing, just chatted. And then I used to say, oh, you are so intelligent, you are so, why didn't you do, and then I used to note down all how much they scored in their school. They were all in their 40s, so 40 percentile to 50 percentile, that in that range. So and then during this 2 months of motivation, without teaching them anything, I noticed that they started getting in the 70s. And I was thinking, these guys are really actually 70s students, that caliber, but why did they get 40s in the first place? Kept talking, brainstorming, and I realized that the parents were with all the good intentions, they were all when they were under stress, they would call them all kinds of bad stuff. They would say, oh, you're dumb. So this guy thinks he's really dumb. So over time, that's how their performance was going down. So that was how I realized that this is what the issue is. And then I motivated the other way. I started asking a lot of, first it was once a week, then it became twice a week. They were getting very motivated. So I started doing 3, 4, 6, every day, 1 test a week. Then there was 2 tests, then everyday tests, sometimes twice in the weekend, stuff like that. These people started doing really good, and then when they started getting in their 75, 80, in their own classes, not in my tests. So then I thought, like this, now I should push them, and then I pushed them really hard. Turns out that at least 6 of them became medical doctors in that 35. So, and then I thought about this, and that was the most fulfilling time of my life, actually. I've been a doctor so many times. I've done some extraordinary, almost undoable type of surgeries, but this was the most fulfilling moment of my life, I mean, year and a half of my life. And I've thought through this a lot of times, and I thought, why weren't they doing so good earlier, and now these guys actually became doctors, so at least the 6 of them. So what is it that should be done, could be done, etc. And then I tried to replicate this whole thing in the Silicon Valley when I was an advisor to a tech incubator. And of course, I found that one of the things I found a lot was in almost all the jobs I did, I found that the more formally educated the folks were, the harder it was for them to get ideas. And this was, I mean, they would get ideas only focused around one narrow lane, and that would help create a new feature, not a whole new product or not a whole paradigm shifting anything, things like that. So and then I thought maybe it is something else and all that, and then I've been thinking about this. I think formal education is actually the culprit, and the formal education, I dug into it a little bit. So what is conventionally the formal education is more of has a origin in the Industrial Revolution and the colonial times, and they didn't want the other guy to think. That was the deal. So they wanted them to do the work but not think on their own. So that is probably the reason why this formal education is it's a huge block. I see the higher they study, the more difficult it is to, I mean, they'll create enormous number of features, not different paradigm shifting products, things like that. I was just wondering, actually yesterday when I was trying to create a presentation, I was looking up all the dropouts who became billionaires, entrepreneurs. And of course the well-known ones are the Steve Jobs and the Bill Gates and all that. But when I dug in, I saw like hundreds and hundreds of them. It's not just these 2 or anything. Almost everyone who was a very successful billionaire, they all were dropouts, and they either dropped out of high school or higher up. And I'm just an example, like Henry Ford also was a dropout, and he created the most mind-boggling car revolution. The thing is, I'm just thinking, just imagine if Henry Ford had gotten his master's and a PhD and he would have been sitting in one of the seminars where they would say how to do a new, how to be entrepreneurial and stuff, and he would be thinking I should be someday, but he would probably never had invented a car or did a car. You probably would have still been having a buggy horse kind of a thing with a million different features, probably. I'm just guessing. That's how I thought this will fit. So I'm just letting this out, this idea out. I want to get more feedback from you. That's why I'm here. So that's how I will do my presentations. Why is it hard for formally educated high achievers at entrepreneurial success? Entrepreneurship, which is a real world thing, it's an overall thing. There are multiple things you have to be doing, thinking differently. You have to be thinking like how to bring value to that particular society or something like that. So there is an overemphasis of structure in formal education. The focus in formal education is on the more structure and mostly less critical things. I think the theoretical knowledge, there's a huge emphasis on that, and somehow they made sure that that doesn't really correspond to practical real world issues. In fact, we don't have any courses or anything we learned about how money works, and the rest of our life we are only doing coping up with how to learn to see how money works. That's also another big thing they never teach us in school. And then perfectionism's focus, that's another one that I've seen delays their entry into entrepreneurship. So that's how they miss the bus. Entrepreneurship is also about timing and all that. Unwillingness to take unconventional paths. This is definitely not taught in school because there's a huge emphasis in not taking risks and predictability. This is what the formal education, because that's exactly what they wanted in the factory floors. They wanted to make sure that the productivity happens. There's huge emphasis on that, not on like thinking at all. So that's what the thing is. So reliance on external validation in terms of, which is not really required in entrepreneurial venture. So as I already said that, so there's a narrow worldview in the conventional education we go through, where we are taught some things and we are supposed to know only that, nothing beyond that. And there is this limits a lot of critical thinking. And then there's another thing, they don't want us to, I mean the formal education doesn't want us to look at other non-Western cultures, their other ways of education systems. For example, Montessori schools, it came from Italy, and that's where this pediatrician, she was able to make the people learn, kids learn who had ADHD, autistic and other people learn. That's how this whole Montessori system came about, because she thought outside the box. Anyway, here's the thing that I'm planning to do. So I want to create this very disruptive business incubator, and want to churn out billionaires, but I want to select those folks who are not formally educated, or they could be, but they are the ones who are in the backbench or something like that. So even at other companies I work for quite a few big companies, corporate world. Again, the corporate world is the same thing as the factory floor. Okay, so that's what they want. They don't want us to think. Even my boss, even at my age, he didn't want me to think other things, and because I may leave or I may go somewhere or something. They don't want to think anything. So anyway, so the thing is, I want to create this business incubator where I identify the folks. I've also found, for example, in engineering, in one of the jobs I had about 275 engineers working for me, reporting to me directly or indirectly, and I found that the best of them had the least of the engineering education, meaning they would come from trade schools and they were remarkable engineers. They knew exactly, because they actually do stuff. And then there was especially the folks who came from India. I had a horrible time because they thought they knew very much, and it was very difficult for me to get anything done. So that was how it was. So I will identify folks who have a diploma in engineering, and then what I need, the ask is that I need folks who are very observing, something like a Montessori school teacher. They know what they do. You're familiar with Montessori schools? They have teachers who are constantly observing the kids, and they are not supposed to advise, tell anything. They just help bring the resources to the kid, and the kid will do its own learning. It does a fantastic job. It does a fantastic job as long as we don't interrupt the whole process. I think Google, the founders and even the early employees and all, they all mostly came from Montessori schools. Okay, and so they have a very good way of learning by themselves, which is actually the way nature is supposed to be. And then we have created this all types of things like, oh, if we don't go to school, then we don't learn anything, something like that. And then, so I would need Montessori type school teachers. So in ancient India, there was this Gurukula system where they were like these Montessori school teachers. They would really help kids to blossom their full potential. I want folks who would probably become that type of folk who will observe the kids and try to help them out. They will themselves harness their potential. The kids will take care of themselves. And then groom creativity, nurturing environment that focuses on out of the box unique techniques, diverse perspectives, multitudes of so there are more than about 36 idea generation techniques. Other than brainstorming, there are like another 35. So there is this thing called mindstorming. I used to teach at UC California, Berkeley and other places, and I gave this test. Many times I would give a small problem and they would need more time to do that. And I was thinking, like, our brain's supposed to be very fast. How come they are taking 18 minutes and 21 minutes to think through this small thing? Then our brains must be really slow then, right? It turns out that there is this other, our brains are buggy. I think this is my theory. During evolution, there was some problem because of which we got a lot of bugs in the brain. So we created all this, which we call now as ego. So we think through the ego, and that is not our really the thing. So that's why we take time. So instantaneous thinking, that's what is mindstorming about. So that's the overall thing I want to do, and network with unconventional advisors who are also themselves dropouts, and mentors, out of the box industry thought leaders. That's what I want to do, and let's see how that goes. I have a very serious interest in getting started with this project. Thank you very much for listening to me, and appreciate that.